Ooh, that was extra crunchy this morning. That's nice. Hello and welcome to Stormwatch by GreyNoise Intelligence. Each week we drop the latest info on what's happening at GreyNoise, take a look at a roundup of important and timely cybersecurity topics, and then toss out some expert opinions and possibly the occasional conspiracy theory. Actually, Kimber, we really need to do another one of those soon. Uh, I
Expert.
I am Bob Rudis, and with me are my co-host Kimber. But before I bring Kimber in, we got to set some background music here for everybody. I should talk
Are we
about
gonna
that.
are we gonna address the elephant in the room or
I will in a minute.
Special
I will
bit
in a minute.
more.
okay?
There we go. So that should be low enough. The reason why you hear the Lord of the Rings music in the background is that I usually introduce folks with a question. So Kimber, good morning.
Good morning.
And aspirationally speaking, Kimber, if you could be any character in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, books and or movies, who would you be? What would you be?
You know, I'm gonna go with a potentially controversial one and say Frodo.
Ooh, why? Why?
Like, I just enjoy the idea of being the one on the grand adventure, so to speak. You know, like the kind of pursuing main character energy, I guess.
And you want to sail off into the west to go with the rest of the elves?
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
I'm
that'd be
not a
kinda
Lord
cool.
of the Rings expert here, but the whole like evil Frodo arc and everything is pretty, yeah.
Very cool. Glenn, also good morning to you.
Good morning.
Did you have like I have no idea what's happening weather-wise in Texas. Are you guys in ice or in rain? What are you in down there now?
No, we've defrosted to just 33-degree rain, which I don't know
That's
if that's
horrible.
the
That's
best or the
just
worst.
I
Yeah.
mean, Texas is miserable enough without that. But anyway, I digress. Same question to you, my good sir. If aspirationally speaking, if you could be any character in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, books or movies, who would you pick?
So I'm about to get booted. Is there a character that is not in any of them because they don't know it exists and they've never seen anything
No,
or read anything?
embarrassingly, Glenn, like when Bob asked this question or when I read it in the show notes, I was like Dumbledore. And then I
No.
was
Like we could do Harry Potter, yeah. I've literally never watched, read, consumed a single minute of Lord of the Rings.
Okay,
So
Overwatch, he's gone. He's gone, Overwatch. He's gone right now. He's nice. That was pretty beautiful.
Glenn has Legolas energy.
yeah,
Sorry.
I'll
Okay.
put it out to vote. Yeah, sure.
All right. I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
It's probably
And, like,
offensive, but I'll just go with it. Kimber.
I also have a goal and objective for Glenn to fill the rest of this year, which is great.
I have to
Thanks-
do the whole.
yes, it's part of work.
Formally done.
Oh no, we are setting goals for the next.
We are setting
24.
goals.
This is gonna be rough.
Yeah, this is great. As folks might be able to see, and you won't know until I say it now for the ones that are just listening, one of our co-hosts, Emily, cannot make it today. She's on a secret mission from God this morning. However, in the last week's webinar that we'll be talking about the last installment of in a little bit, I did name her as Galadriel, so I'm going with that, and she can like correct me later next week or the next time she's on, if that is not, because I asked that she would not turn into evil Galadriel, and for folks that watch the movie, that could be pretty bad if that actually ever
Oh
happened.
man, this is like some deep stuff here.
It is.
I am so not up on the Lord of the Rings.
This
like,
is what happens
lore.
when Bob has a 6-hour drive or whatever
This
that
is what
was.
happens when Bob has an 8-hour drive home from Delaware. This does. I am going to choose Treebeard. I would actually kill to be Treebeard. I would love to be Treebeard, this ancient thing that just gets to walk around and be super cool and moody all the time. I mean, I guess that describes me as what I am now too. So that's
Sounds
great.
like
That's
sounds like
cool.
a hate.
Is that like Groot? Is
It's slower Groot. It's slower Groot.
old slow Groot?
I have no idea what's happening right now. This is
It's all
great.
right. And so I can turn off the music. Our Overwatch, you told us earlier in the show, but who would you be aspirationally? Okay. In aspirational Legolas, in reality Gimli. I gotta say, our Overwatch does have Gimli energy. I'm equally as afraid of her as I would be Gimli, so that's great. We are going to turn off the music now, for better or for worse.
So
out there.
where's our friend? Where's my biggest fan, Bob?
Oh, let's see. Do we have comments? The
Yes.
two youngest viewers are present. So
They've
good
multiplied.
morning. Good morning, Benjamin, and good morning, Ezekiel. So this is we literally have a listener who is like what 10 days old, Tori, I think. So yeah, like wow, the youngest listener ever.
Shout out to the homies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. So hi, Benjamin, and we are going to kick it right here
Bob's
with
just trying to get that referral bonus to get him hired at GreyNoise.
I am totally doing that. We're going to start off just by welcoming anyone from the podcast world listening to us. If you don't know, we have a podcast. We do, so you don't actually have to stare at our mugs. You can just listen to our voices, and we'll be having a really epic, amazingly awesome landing page soon for all of these things. So all these horrible URLs go away, and we'll have a really great one for you all to go to. We'll probably change it up over time too, but I cannot wait to introduce that to the world. The
Another
design
shout
team,
out to the design team. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Our design team is better than every other design team on the planet. Fight me. It'd be great. We can do that. We are. So
For the
we
record, the design team did not make this slide.
No.
yeah. Oh yeah.
As you
No.
transition.
Yeah. None of the slides that anyone
Art.
sees in the artifacts are the fault of the design team in any way, shape, or form. They are totally me just trying to set some attitude for the show, and we're workshopping them weekly now. So the news section, the top of my news section is now Cyber Spotlight, and I do encourage folks to take a look at the PDF because this is a truly wretched intro slide to that. This morning I came up looking through the social medias as is wont to do every morning, and used to live in Pennsylvania a long time ago, and anything in that region still sparks a little bit of interest in my head. And this is one. It's another incident that happens. Like incidents are happening all over the place in municipalities. This one happens in Bucks County. About 700,000 humans like reside in that county. It's a pretty big place there. It's right on the border of New Jersey, and their entire computer-aided dispatch system, complete for the entire county, every single thing that everybody relies on to like, hey, please go respond to this thing that's happening somewhere like bad by police, fire, etc. Got rent. So it's cyber attack. It's most likely extortion slash ransomware because that's what everything is these days. And this is not great. And I'm just going to read a really quick summary. This is on Sunday. Their CAD system has experienced an outage, which they believe is caused by a cyber attack. It's used by again everything out there to do response. It's impacted everything. They also can't access national databases. Now, as someone who doesn't like the surveillance state, I'm actually maybe not too upset with that, but it does help actually catch criminals and things like that. So it might be actually good to have access to that. And as of this morning, it was still down. So this is not great. And I kind of brought this in here only to bring awareness to it again. If you can, if you're out there, like, so if you're in the US, I guess it extends outward, but specifically in the US, it seems to be more of a problem. If you have any contact with like first responders or have any clout within your municipality governance or whatever, please try to raise awareness about like what the extortion campaigns and the ransomware campaigns can do. This is a terrible outage. It could be impacting people's safety. People might actually die because of this. We won't know that for sure or for a while if that ever happened. It may be hard to actually pinpoint that, but we really need to help governments and municipalities. We talk about this in our report that I'll re-mention again later. They just don't get a lot of funding. They don't get a lot of support. And I'm just curious, like since Kimber makes it around to a bunch of the planet and Glenn is in Texas, has this been more a thing recently? Have you seen anything more regionally associated with this, or has this been something that hasn't popped up on your local radars much?
I was trying to think if there had been dispatch system ransomwares before, and I'm sure that there have been. But I think it's so interesting to see how long it takes to restore that.
Yeah.
I
I
imagine
know,
it's
like,
not the kind of thing that there's like a drill, like a restoration drill where like you practice restoring your dispatch system because how could you? So, yeah, that's a lot of downtime.
I know, like, there's been at least quasi locally a lot of focus on a lot of attacker focus on municipal systems. I can't recall if it's affected dispatch, but definitely like the ability to do the normal deliver the normal goods and services of a community or a city. I was just kind of thinking back to the good old days when ransomware groups did not attack hospitals and critical infrastructure. Those were good days.
Back in
Yeah.
the oldie days.
Back in
Yeah,
the
so
golden days of
so I hope this
ransomware.
doesn't become more of a target this year, but when things start to work and if especially if they're going to give in and there is a ransom associated with this, it's just gonna encourage more of this happening. So be really careful. I'm gonna actually we have a response from one of our
Yeah,
listeners.
this is
Thank you for
interesting.
this. As a SecOps engineer now, but a previous 9/11 dispatcher of a decade, one of the problems here is commercial closed source. CAD projects promising all-in-one functionality and departments not having resources or time to set up failovers. Oh, that's a really
Interesting.
awesome. Thank you so much for that
Yeah,
contribution.
that's
Wow, I mean, that's horrible, and I guess we should have expected that to be maybe a case everywhere.
yeah, that's mostly what I was curious about is like how are these systems actually set up? Like what was the path there? Like are these just sitting on like kind of generic, Windows boxes? Is there any kind of closed network to it? And
Yeah.
You know what's interesting, or just kind of a thought that I'm thinking as I'm saying it out loud, but like for these types of services, I would imagine that there's DR plans in the essence of like a natural disaster or, some sort of kinetic physical event that's creating overload or taking something offline. So I would almost think that these would be better prepared for some sort of similar situation, but
Yeah. I do want to give a shout out to all the folks that are dealing with this in Bucks County. They had the pen and paper,
oof.
literal like analog phone pen and paper system ready to go, and they were using it effectively the minute this actually happened on Sunday. So shout out to them for probably having practiced that a number of times to get that down pat and keep trying to keep people as safe as they can with that. And that's not the case for a lot of other organizations. So that is amazing. And I wish our other organizations were as well prepared as they were to deal with this and are dealing with it as effectively as they can. So that's just
So it
great to
sounds like
see.
computer closed source CAD dispatch systems need some bug bounties.
Oof. Yeah, we'll
mm,
we'll have a bug biter discussion some other day. We are taking the middle or the kind of upfront section, newsy section, into a slightly different direction today, bringing it up a little bit of a higher level. This is the beginning of report season, and it starts off with some very high level, wonky kind of things, and then goes down into some more technical ones. I guess ours that we release fits into the more technical side. But at this time of year, both the World Economic Forum and a whole bunch of other places like cyber insurers begin to talk about, hey, what was the worst of the last year, and what are people concerned about this coming year and the near future. And so we're going to look at both the World Economic Forum's Global Cybersecurity Outlook briefly, and also the Allianz Risk Barometer, because for the second year in a row, cyber tops the list, and it actually bumped up a little bit percentage wise in that list. So we're going to just like examine some of those things. There's links to grab these reports. One reason why I also am putting it up here is that I used to have to answer questions from reports like this all the time in previous lives when I had real jobs like almost everybody else out there that's listening or viewing. And it's just good to know what other people are reading because they do read these things like the folks in the senior management. This is what they're going. Some of your senior managers were probably in Davos for some of the things going on, and they definitely care about the cyber insurance just because of how bad things are getting in that space too. The first thing that caught my eye, and I just want to talk to the rest of the team about this. This was interesting because we don't often talk about, or I mean, we mention it occasionally, but we don't really do deep dives on it. The growing cyber inequity between organizations that are cyber resilient. I love that, by the way. They aren't saying secure; they're saying resilient. I love using that word instead of secure. And those that are not. And so they ask, this is like a bunch of folks, like they ask a bunch of people in organizations in leadership positions in these areas. And what they're seeing is that more low revenue organizations are losing resiliency than gaining it, and more high revenue organizations are maturing into leaders in cyber resilience. So basically, the have nots are having less than they even did before. The haves are getting better, and this goes back to Wendy Nather's security poverty line again, and we just seem to be just furthering that gap and not getting any better. And I guess from all the news that we've covered over like like half year of storm watches, I'm just wondering, Kimber and Glenn, this tracks. I to me it tracks, but am I just using recency bias or using just the corpus that we happen to be going from? Or is this what you've been seeing as you kind of peruse the news and do your own research in this area?
I I think I can definitely see an inequity happening because there's kind of this very like blatant kind of things were down. Things were down, or there's an ability for data breaches, things to happen, and business to continue as usual. Like, I bring the term cyber resiliency kind of back to business continuity. I think it's a little bit a different way of saying the same thing to me. But
Yeah,
if you
I
have a lot of money to spend.
yeah, I agree. It's like you know, another segment of society or business or whatever that has like a growing gap between, you know, the haves and have-nots. And it's easy to see. Well, first, like, so I actually haven't looked at these reports in years past. Like, it just wasn't in my whatever. And then Bob was talking about doing this for the show, and these are awesome. Like, both of them like are very, very cool to like read through and understand. Like, so these folks like do this for a living. Like, it's insurance, it's the, you know, focus on economics, whatever. So it's a really good viewpoint to see like what everyone, like Bob already said, but I'm just calling out, like, it was a really interesting report, and it's an easy read, lots of graphs. um but yeah, so like, I mean, we just saw like with municipal systems, university systems. I'm trying to think of like folks that have been hit with so much disruptive ransomware and stuff lately. The dispatch we just talked about, like, all of those are more lower funded type organizations, and they're getting more and more attention because the haves here with the revenue to invest in the resiliency are putting up enough barriers that people are moving on to the SMEs.
So one thing that when I read this, because the organizations that just don't have the money to deal with some of
Hmm.
these things, and that's probably training as well.
Hmm.
Something Kimber said a couple times now in recent storm watches are like getting folks back together in meet space for just information sharing, knowledge, knowledge transfer, all those things. I'm wondering, Kimber, do you think that that might be a way to bolster some of the lack of resiliency in those organizations? Like, if we can empower some of the individual contributors and even some of the folks that are in leadership, if we can get them to come to the meet space meetings, to have that knowledge to be able to do better in that space, like, is that one way we might be able to dig ourselves out of this?
Yeah, I think so. And I would even hazard to say that, like, it doesn't even necessarily like to have to be an in-person gathering. Like, one of the most effective local organizations that I can think of is I mean, I guess I'm biased because I'm in Utah right now and I'm very in deep with the Utah community. But Utah Saint, it's a information network technology, like, security based community group, but a lot of it is based out of the education security practitioners. So, like, University of Utah, all of those, like, um, or more like universities, schools, the Utah Education Network. So they formed this group that meets and they actually share like security bulletins. They share information about like what they've been seeing. Um, Here's the things like we're patching this week. And I feel like
Oh,
it really
cool.
bolsters the community as a whole because everybody has the same baseline of knowledge of kind of what's going on, but also I think it holds like the community to a standard of like,
Gotcha.
here's the level we're all operating on,
Yeah.
and like here's kind of what you're expected to know. I mean, you're not going to get shamed or anything if you don't, but like it level sets like how much people care. And I think like talking to anybody in that organization, they have these regularly cadenced meetings. So I think that their organizations have a lot of cyber resiliency despite being these potentially lower funded like programs.
What you mentioning them sharing what we're patching this week, I I mean, we should smile more when we're talking about cyber. It's hard to. Made me actually smile though, because like normally that's not what I think of when people get together at these kind of events. But seriously, but that's amazing talking about that, because like these are things that matter. At least like, we've identified that matter, and sharing that information is amazing, right? Because like that, knowing where you need to like that's one reason why we love Kev so much, is like we need to care about this. Like this is a major important thing we have to deal with. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it feels like what InfraGard is supposed to be. Like If you ever
Oh,
ventured into
Ooh,
cloud computing.
I am not. We are moving to the next slide because I you don't want to have me talk about InfraGard. As not something that anyone wants. At least not on tape. Yes, I said tape. So the other thing that caught my
definitely.
eye, as they interviewed a bunch of folks again for the WEF report, is in the next 2 years, will generative AI provide overall cyber advantage to attackers or defenders under the auspices of the blanket category of emerging technologies will exacerbate longstanding challenges related to cyber resilience. And I was this was an interesting one to me because I would not have like I would have been in the in one of the lower categories. So the three possible answers were it's going to enable attackers better, it's going to remain balanced, or it's going to be a boon to defenders. And just seeing what we're doing, like maybe I'm biased because we're doing some pretty amazing things. Like Daniel, especially, is doing some amazing research in this space, and I see other organizations like us in vendor land, but I also see real organizations outside of vendor land doing other things as well. I would have said defenders are going to do better than attackers, like at least within the next couple of years. So seeing the pessimism here was a little bit, I guess, depressing. The top answer in this space was they just felt the leaders that were answering the survey, they just felt that AI was gonna enable more advanced phishing, malware development,
Hmm.
deepfakes, etcetera. And so I'm just curious, like, I know we've talked about this a little bit on previous shows, but I guess if you were to answer this question, like, I'll start with Glenn, like, where would you have answered this if WEF came to you and said, "Hey, Glenn, what do you think about this?"
I'd say for 2 years, I would agree with defenders, to be honest. Just thinking about the fact, the old line of defenders have to get it right all the time or something like that, and offensive, basically red teams can try and they just need to get it right once. Defenders have to get it right all the time. So kind of in that mindset, I think it would give the advantage to defenders for at least a few years. We'll see how it matures. Also, because of kind of what you were saying, Bob, is while we've been able to work closely with Daniel and see what we're being able to do internally, we're also seeing how not
Yeah.
perfect it is.
Yeah.
Um, and it can get you close. It can get you real close. It can get you close enough to take away hours or days of work, but it's still not great at getting you from A to B, like hands off. It's not self-driving.
I mean,
And so
it can make some pretty good jokes along the way, though. I mean,
it,
some of
it
those
does,
jokes
it
aren't so
actually does
bad.
have
Yeah.
some really good
Strangely
snark.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, the snark engine that we've worked in, I think we should charge extra for the jokes, um but yeah, so I would have answered to defenders. I would have
Cool.
ranked it in opposite order, like defenders, then balance for a while, and then we'll have to see, like, like after 5 years what that looks like. Hopefully not. But I also think because of the second question on the right, it's a little skewed because then we get insight to see that it feels to me that folks are focusing on the phishing aspect, which is not surprising because of that's typically the way in, either unpatched systems or phishing, to have these like very disruptive and costly cyber events.
Right. And for listeners,
So
that second question is, what are you most concerned about
yes,
in regards to generative AI's impact on cyber? And you can read the actual questions and the percentage answers as well associated with
yeah,
that.
yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I
So
guess
I feel like the phishing kind of biased it a little bit, to be honest,
yeah.
but
So
I
so Kimber,
see.
yeah, yeah. Like so Kimber, like what's your take on, like, how would you have answered this?
I would have never thought that AI would provide a cyber advantage to defenders. I mean, like, I agree with the low ranking on the defender side here because there's just so many more like adversarial components to AI that like
Okay.
you can generate phishing emails, you can generate deep fakes, you can like run through a pen test even faster with AI. Like I can think of like probably, I don't know, 5 different red teaming like pen testing companies that have been using LLMs in their like pen testing stack for, at least the last 5 years. So, I think I've just seen more
Okay.
adversarial, like, bad things happen because of AI. Like, I've seen my mom send me a meme of some deep fake that's like, her and my dad, like, deeply believed that you could see aurora borealis down in Arizona. And I was like, "This is fake, guys, come on."
Okay. Wow.
So, I think of all of those things. I think of the phone calls that older people have been getting with the fake voices of their
Yeah, actually, that happened. So
family.
I for folks that like I live right on the border of New Hampshire, and yesterday, what was going around all day yesterday was a fake Joe Biden voice calling up, targeting Democrat lists of folks to say, "Don't vote for whatever." Like it was a terrible, like
And
nasty, like, campaign.
that's considered a cyber attack because that's election
Yeah.
interference, and like that ties in. So I just see way more generative AI like adversarial
Yep.
techniques than I do defense. Like the where AI and everything relates to defense like techniques is it's really good for pattern recognition. So you can see like what your enterprise is normally doing and detect anomalies a lot faster, probably.
Wow.
I don't
Okay.
know other defensive capabilities.
I'm still gonna hold out hope for defenders on this one. Uh, this one, so the next slide is a question is, do you have the skills needed to achieve your cybersecurity objectives? And what really depressed me on this one is like, there was a lot of hope for some reason in 2022. I have no idea where, and like we're in cyber, like I don't know where you get hope from. And folks answering that question in 2022, and a lot of the same folks are answering the question now as did then. Like 94% of low revenue organizations said, "Yep, we totally do," and 88.3% of high and medium revenue organizations said, "Yep, we totally do." And their sentiment went down just a teeny bit, and like the low revenue organizations went from like almost 100% to like below 50% of confidence that they do have the skills needed. Like so what. I read through it, so I kind of know what some of the answers were. But like, I'm just curious, like, what do you folks think were some of the reasons that, like, what happened in 2023 that caused everyone to go, "Yeesh, this is horrible. We can't deal with this anymore," in those lower funded organizations.
So actually, when I first saw this graph, my first thought was, "Oh yeah, nobody knows Kubernetes. It's fine, guys."
Oh, man.
There was a lot of layoffs in tech in
Yeah.
2023.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
and so, I think that there's some psychological safety that was shaken with that. Also, there is legitimate like organizations who've legitimately had to reduce that staffing. So it's not even a feeling, it's a fact for as far as do they have the skills needed because they had
Yeah.
to release, X number or whatever, or X%. And then interestingly enough, like things aren't getting cheaper. Your software prices are
Okay.
going up. The software to protect your software is going up. Salaries are going up. So for the low funded, like where maybe they were getting by with some um, maybe deeply discounted softwares or something, as companies start scratching for all the revenue they can get, they might be getting rid of those programs that give such deep discounts. Like there's a lot of, I think it's more of a economical
Okay.
um, influence than probably a um, like internal feeling.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I guess the more that I kind of read this report, I think the defenders are they're up against a lot of things that are very complicated to defend against. Like
They're tired. They're
they're
so
so
tired.
exhausted. I am exhausted for them. Like, how do you defend against SIM swapping?
How do you defend against everything all the
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
And I guess the whole explosion of AI last year probably didn't help folks answer this question with any more hope than they did before. So that's probably part of that too.
Maybe AI answered the question. And it's a
Ooh, oof.
putting us on a
I don't
false
feel
trail.
confident in my ability to defend against the robots either, so that's why I'm always nice and I say please and thank you.
I
Hey,
am
I've got
too.
I have Gimli's axe in the background. I can go get it if I need to. I can hack the robots. I don't care about the robots. They're fine. The other question that there may be a fourth, but we'll probably skip the fourth one, is what keeps you up at night? I used to hate this question when I used to get asked this back in the day. I was in I think this has changed over time, and I didn't go back to take a look at this. The top answer was losing access to or reliability of important goods or services, so comms, transportation, medicine, banking, due to a cyber attack. So,
I was
like,
really surprised at this.
yeah, like, so at least in, the well-informed crowd that the WEF talks to, that was top of mind because I don't really think that in the general population that is top of mind. And really close next to it was cyber extortion, ransomware, blackmail, meaning that people like read the news as well too. So yeah, I was curious as to your reactions as to like would you have expected those two to be in the top, or would you have expected that top one to be the top one too? And Glenn, you already said part of that, but do you have a why?
Yeah, I was surprised. I would have assumed that the second one, which is cyber extortion, ransomware, blackmail, would be number one again, just because it's all the headlines that there are. It's also insanely expensive. I wonder if part of it is because most organizations, large organizations, have a price. They know the price of downtime. Like, it's in a lot of contracts. It's negotiated if like their service provider's out or whatever. But if you make widgets and your factory's offline for an hour, like what that costs. So I think it's probably they're more aware of what that costs. But with ransomware or a cyber event, like we don't know those costs till years later, essentially. And so one, it's a lot of it's probably insured, maybe not, but it's a big unknown that doesn't. It's just less quantified, I guess, beforehand for them
Yeah.
to think about more. But I was surprised that cyber extortion wasn't number one.
What about you, Kimber?
I think the one that I always expect to be a little bit higher are the things that are more personal, but I didn't necessarily think of like losing access to transportation. Like I'm wondering if this is a reference to like rail systems being hacked or, like stuff like that, or if it's literally like my vehicle being
Oh,
hacked.
that's interesting too. Yeah. I mean,
Well, it
So,
could be
to
like
be honest,
subways. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
right, because it could be public infrastructure or now like
Hmm.
personal infrastructure. Um, so that was kind of an interesting thought to have from that one. But I liked how low identity theft was on the list because I think everybody's been in some kind
It's
of
too
identity
late.
damage at this
Yeah,
point.
I guess people just don't care anymore either because, like, I guess there's enough FICO credit score monitoring or credit monitoring that like people are just sick and tired of that. This is an interesting question and it ties into like what we're gonna like slipstream into with the Allianz survey. Or actually, theirs isn't just a survey. Theirs is actually like from data that they did from losses last year and kind of moving forward. What would be curious what the thresholds are for acceptable loss via cyber is for different folks. And like, yeah, so one way to get that is you unfortunately have to read a ton of the cyber insurance reports that come out because you can tease some of that out there for that. It's really hard to get if you don't do that. As a matter of fact, we are slipstreaming right into that now. So as I mentioned, from the Allianz risk barometer, like for the second year in a row, third year total, cyber is top and it bumped up like a percentage point. Like, so I consider that noise, but like they made a big deal out of it. What I liked about this one is that they did list where the top areas are. It is not listed by top risk. It's listed in alphabetical order. So don't think that Argentina is worse than the US in terms of potential risk. It just happens to be alphabetical. But they did, constrain the number of countries. This isn't just the top countries. Like it is like this is for these countries. Like this is the cybersecurity risk area. So you might want to take a hold of that if you have like if you businesses in there or you happen to have subsidiaries in those locations.
Hey, Bob,
So that was it. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
it may be helpful to like because these reports are pretty different, right? Like the first one is focused on cyber entirely.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry. Yeah,
and this
that's a
one
great
is
point. Yeah.
actually, and that's
Yeah.
why
So,
this one was really interesting to me because this was not in my world. So this was the first time for me to look through this. This is like, what are your top concerns? Like, is it fire? Is it wind? Is it
yeah.
flooding?
Okay, that's a great point. So this
And yeah,
Allianz one is the overall risk barometer. Like so WEF does this too, like the World Economic Forum. Uh Granted, like not every single thing that what the World Economic Forum produces is of great value. I do find that these annual risk things they do are pretty telling because they do have a great methodology. I've talked to some of the people that run the methodology and actually do the surveys, and they are talking to the decision makers. They are talking to the people that sign checks and spend money and all that kind of stuff and get ridiculous bonuses. And like those folks are giving their opinions, and it is like for the WEF, we just focus it on the cybersecurity one. They cover all of the other ones too, if you want to go poke there. The Allianz one is also awesome because it isn't just, hey, like we're just going to talk about cyber. Like they ask what the top risks and concerns are, like measured both from the survey and for also data that they've got from previous incidents. And cyber was number one for 2 years in a row of all the physical, like forget the physical ones like Glenn was mentioning of fire and storms or whatever.
Yeah, like
Cyber
top
like
five were
topped it.
like cyber, business interruption, natural catastrophe, changes in legislation and macroeconomic development. So
Yeah,
fire is number 6. So like
yeah.
that's the broad range
So
we're talking here.
So I guess one thing that was reassuring, at least great, scary because like cyber is number one, but reassuring that people get it. Like it's not
Mhm.
everybody, but like it is top of this one. And Allianz is big. Like I've in previous lives I would have known their cyber insurance folks. And like this is so awareness is great. The fact that they care about it and the fact that they see it means that more organizations that at least deal with Allianz in the survey world understand what's going on. So that's great. Like we're starting to get more business folks because they're talking to business folks here are grokking like how bad cyber risk really is. When they ask like what cyber exposures concern your company most, it was interesting. Data breaches, I mean, that's sort of an easy one because that's like you're gonna get breached or whatever. But like almost parallel to that, like was in terms of like the number of respondents, cyber attacks and critical infrastructure and physical assets, and increase in malware and ransomware attacks. Like they're all three are in that same like high percentage category. So this like, to me, this was also, oh, wait a minute, people are really starting to grok that this is a real problem in ways that they haven't in previous years, at least from what I've seen and what my purview has been. I was wondering if you guys came away from that with the same impression.
Yeah, I think so. And something else that like I don't actually know how many charts you pulled from this, but something that started feeling like an underlying theme as you go through this report is basically like supply chain, like what
Gotcha. Yep.
SBOM is working on, right? So it's interesting to me to see that now there's, and again, breaches of recent have been pushing this to the top of mind, but to see that like organizations are learning and starting to look, at least I would assume like everyone that participated in this organization is probably, I mean in this survey is probably in that the high, I'm trying to think
Senior
of what it
leader
was.
position. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, like very
yeah.
very senior, very well funded organizations, but
Yep.
that they're understanding like we can't just focus on our own software, our own perimeter or whatever. Like we're, whatever is running the database of our, multi-billion-dollar system is important. So like as I look at this, I think that's why we start seeing some similar percentages for groupings of concerns, basically.
Yeah, that's what that was the theme that I came away with on this one, was just that I think that whoever answered to these surveys, they have a lot of confidence in their own organization's cyber abilities, but there's a lot of emerging realization of how much reliance there is on other organizations to like have
It's
their
like
stuff under control,
it's like when we learned that the economy is a global situation, not a
right?
national situation.
Oh man. The one quote from that was near this section, which I am unfortunately for everyone going to read. So the lion's share of IT security budgets is currently spent on prevention, with around 35% directed to detection and response. So for all detection and response vendors out there you go get more money, whatever. However, if undetected, an intrusion can quickly escalate, and once data is encrypted or stolen, the costs snowball as much as 1,000 times higher than if an incident is detected and contained early. I didn't know that 1000x number before, so now that's going to be in my head. Now you'll probably hear it the rest of the year, everybody. Sorry. Um, and Michael Daum, who's the global head of cyber claims at Allianz, gave actually put money where that figure is. So a 20,000 pound loss, the Allianz it's a Europe thing. So I'm sorry, it's in euros. So a 20,000 euro loss could turn into a 20 million euro loss. Those are real numbers. Like that's not like this is a way to show like legit things from places that want to do their best to not have to pay claims out and want to help you make a better decisions about how to do security in your organization. And this is a huge difference. And like cyber insurance isn't going to cover that 20 million in a lot of cases. So it's probably in your best interest to take reports like this, look for things like that, and use it as a defense for we might want to spend a little bit more into this area to be able to do this so that we prevent this from happening, or at least make the business for the folks make those business decisions, give them the tools, arm them with this information so they can effectively make that risk-based decision and not just think that it's not going to happen to them, because like that is a thing that happens in organizations.
Yeah, and from experience, like I would firsthand 1,000% agree. Well, that's a random number I picked that actually aligns, but I would totally agree with this sentiment where you see I mean, like a very quick example of ransomware is not like the point of ransomware is to be found. It's not a quiet, stealthy event, right? But there are several events that take place before it's deployed. You know, they want to have the massive amount of impact they can. They want to try to get to backups. Like there's a lot of things that happen before you know about or before ransomware announces itself. And that's a great example of where with a good detection and response, you can cut that off and, you know, then you only have 1 or 5 servers, or you stop it before it gets to your backup or something. So like evaluating where you spend and the value, you know, the ROI per dollar that you spend on your security posture in this area is really wise. And I think it is cool to see it in this report as an example of, you know, I didn't know that like that 35% number is interesting. That actually feels high, but that's interesting.
It's so interesting with like the cost of ransomware, like once you start
I know.
seeing data encrypted and stuff. But like when I worked at a like fairly small organization, I don't know how many employees there are, probably under 200. It was a retail, so there was a span of 3 months where we were just getting ransomware like probably every week. And we started thinking like, what can we do about this? Because like clearly the users aren't getting it. It was coming in as resumes for
Oh,
positions
wow.
to be hired. There's a lot of high turnover in retail, so
Yeah.
you're always hiring more or less. So resumes would be the primary like vector fake stuff. So what we kind of evaluated where our highest loss in files was, and it was the file server. And that was like the most time was to take that offline, restore the file server. So somebody generated a bunch of like, okay, what gets hit first on the file server? It's in alphabetical order. So we just generated a bunch of like the Unicode characters that are before A. And there was a group of
Nice.
like 1,000 of them. So whenever like the period file went off, like somebody would literally run into the server room and unplug the file server.
Wire cutters.
And it
Oh,
worked.
man.
Yeah.
Wow.
And who knows, it might even still be there to this day.
Wow.
So, you
I
know,
mean,
things don't have to cost a lot.
Yeah. Creativity. This is why we need diverse groups in our field. We
Yeah.
need the diverse creativity. Yep.
all right, so every org needs to invest in a pair of wire cutters for their XDR program. That way you can just clip
Or
And
just
Unicode
have
characters.
drills of just like who
Yeah.
can unplug it the best. The network. Don't unplug
Whoever's the
This is a-
fastest runner
This
gets
is a
to sit
place to
closest
no,
to the
we
server
no the
room.
robots. We'll enlist the robots, and you can press a button, and the robot will yank it out.
That sounds really cute.
Yeah. I mean,
Little
Glenn's going to spend his learning and development budget on some Amazon robot, so like you might as well get that, right, Glenn? I don't know.
Alexa, turn off the file server.
Oh no.
Oh, man,
Someone's house just went dark.
yeah. That's not great. Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Apologies for that. We really shouldn't do that. We're gonna really quickly just the tool time segment. Try to make it useful for folks, especially for the lower funded organizations that may not be able to afford like the giant loggy systems that are out there. Came across this really neat project called LogBoost. It is a really all-encompassing solution for getting logs in almost any conceivable format and being able to use it and like at layer and metadata as well. This is pretty amazing. It's super it slides in really well in any system. You can extend it with any third-party service, so a little bit self-serving. You can use GreyNoise as well with this if you want to. And it's just really, really nice. So if you are struggling to deal with all the logs that you have to deal with and can't afford a big system, or you have a lot of complex environments, or you need something that can parse things in ways that they might not be able to, this just was really great. I played with it a little bit and I tried a bunch of different logs into it, and it does a great job. So shout out to the maintainer of this one. It's a GitHub project. Go forth and install it. And if you do use it, drop in on any one of the forums that we have at GreyNoise to let other people know about it and what your experiences are with it. And if you're using it in a cool way, please let everybody know that too.
Like if you're
Yeah.
spending money on SIM and correlation engines and all of these things, and then you also have homegrown applications, like spend the time and effort to get everything into whatever your central
Yep.
repository that does correlation, because it will be valuable.
Yeah. pretty cool. So in a shameless self-promotion segment, I am going to do my best to be our missing Galadriel and talk about a VMware blog. And this is actually great because we do not have a corresponding one for this one. It's an older CVE in 2023. It's for VMware vCenter. And one reason why that it made it and popped up is because Mandiant released a report about this very recently, which the census blog goes into, provides links to. So you should definitely hit that up on there. The TLDR on the whole thing is that this particular CVE 2023 34048. I hate reading CVE numbers. It's in VMware vCenter's implementation of the DCE RPC protocol. I really wish we'd be done with that thing, but we're not. It's in vSphere, of course, and Cloud Foundation, of course, which is what everyone uses, and unfortunately is exposed to the internet in a lot of cases, as we'll see. As Mandiant notes in the link you can get from Census, China high tech espionage hacking group did that in the wild, like exploited in the wild. Every version of vSphere except the most latest patched one is vulnerable. Yikes, terrible. There has been up until like at least now no public exploits available nor a mass hacking campaign, so this is pretty targeted. Census, in their normal course of inventorying the internet, sees about 3,500 of these vCenter hosts exposed to the internet. Not great, but only 293 of them had the DCRPC service running. So that's a thankful small mitigation for that. And there's a lot of versions that people could install. The folks that are exposing this to the internet probably aren't going to ever upgrade their versions of it. So like they're kind of stuck. So like there's confirmation this is in the wild. I do believe this is in Kev. I think this hit Kev the other day. And so this is just something just to make aware. The blog goes into great detail. As usual, they do a great job like talking about what they do and the research team over there. So definitely hit that one up for folks that are out there. Glenn, I'm going to drop this over to you because we just recently did a fairly deep dive into a recent big IP set of RCE vulnerabilities.
Yeah, so Ron, we it seems like we're just gonna start having a Ron segment at this rate, because one of the cool things about Ron is his personal documentation is basically always a blog post. That's just how his brain works. So he's always just, it's just easy to throw over. But yeah, so he was digging through something that Sift highlighted actually. We've talked at length about that, but Sift highlighted something and he was digging through it, and that sent down essentially a rabbit hole around F5 vulnerabilities. And TLDR kept getting them mixed up and seeing which one is which. So he decided I'm gonna sort out these 5 or 6 CVEs, what they look like, how they identify them, and write about the differences. So that's what this blog is about. So it's a very interesting read that he.
I think it's also a good read because you just see this stuff show up so often. Like there's a lot of it out there. So
Yeah,
yeah. No.
You're muted, bub.
Oh.
I am muted. And Ron talked a little bit about this last week in the second tag webinar. So hit that up if you want to get some more like actual Ron commentary. Oh wait, should we have a Ron-com segment? Sorry, I'll stop that. I'll do it. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Speaking of our tag series, the third and final installment is tomorrow. It's all about how we're using AI to try to ensure our best. And our main goal is to ensure that every interaction with GreyNoise is tagged in some way, shape, or form. That is not the case right now. We have a lot of tags. We tag a lot of things, but every packet, I want to know what every packet's trying to do, or at least be able to classify every single packet. We are hopefully going to be able to do that with our AI solution. Lots more about that tomorrow. We are not going to talk about it anymore today because I want you to tune in tomorrow. We this is the second and final time I will be proselytizing our report. We do have a report out for all of the badness of 2023. There's been a couple of good articles in the IT and Cyber Press that summarize the number of points. Another one's coming out soon. Definitely take a look at this. The one section I didn't mention last time, there's a section in it, and then there's an appendix where we talk about all of the tags we saw in 2023 and did like the top 7, because that I'm on to about 50% of the attack techniques associated with that. By doing that, if you do that comparison to your org, if you say, hey, wait, this is where GreyNoise saw these things. These are active attacks that GreyNoise saw throughout the year. These are the attack tactics that were being like utilized in this space. If you have gaps in those spaces, you now just have a plan to go fix some of those things if you run some of those technologies. So definitely take a look at that. That one section, I had a great conversation with one of the folks that are going to be doing a summary of the report, and they thought that was one of the more interesting things. And they're going to be doing I gave them some more data around the entire Kev catalog. So Todd's in the note in the comment section here. Did a whole deep dive on like all of Kev and all of the attack tactics associated with all of what the CVEs are in Kev, and they're going to layer some of that into their report coming out too. So take a look at that later this week, and I'll draw attention to that probably in one of the social media spaces we all hang out on. And Glenn apparently wants everybody in the team to kill him, because we have an inordinate number of tags for Glenn, do you want to like what happened last week? There's so many
Oh,
tags.
no. So I mean, a lot of these are like Sift is serving. Sift is serving. So Sift is doing well. So working through that also. What's that?
Sift is sifting.
Yes, it is. Well, yeah, we need to tighten that funnel a little bit because we get so much traffic every day that sifted feed is still ridiculous. But no, so of course Avanti there's some, and Confluence, there's some emerging threats in there. The others are, just get our mojo back. We had some holidays and we had some time off and this and that. So
That's
just
pretty
get
cool.
back in the swing of things, but let's not set that as the bar, please.
Yeah, we shouldn't. And so we have the next couple of slides. They are visual in nature. I am not going to read a whole lot from the slides. I'm going to be throwing out for some commentary because we're almost towards the end. What I've done is I've tried to create some weather maps. They're heat maps of various tag activity for the past 30 days. From that set of tags that the team, the Epic GreyNoise detection engineering team, did. We have some activity for the past couple weeks for a handful of them. As Glenn mentioned, Atlassian and Avanti do pop up to the top, but we've seen some like Adobe Cold Fusion and some WordPress stuff in there as well. So you might, if you use those technologies, we have this is legit stuff happening. These are RCEs or auth bypasses. If you have those exposed to the internet, patch them. If you have those internal, patch them, because there's other ways to get in your organization beyond just hitting the exterior. And if they get to your squishy interior and they're not patched, they're going to be able to get to these things and do them. It's really, really, really important to go do that. The one thing I wanted, so Glenn had also a great idea. So yesterday we were just chatting. He's like, I wish I could see like in our visualizer. So maybe we'll work with the design team and the front end team on how to do this. But like, hey, like I wish I could just see all the D links in one quick fell swoop. So I'm like, okay, I
Yeah,
can
it's
do
been
that.
hitting up it's been
Yeah.
popping up in our top tagged or trending anomalies, feeling like for at least a month. And so that was kind of what spurred the thought of like seeing it together. So this is very interesting to me.
Yeah. So what the heat map is showing is that we have it's like around 10-ish of the D-Link tags that are all seeing just regular activity, some more than others. And I know that of every enterprise that's listening right now doesn't care at all about D-Link because I don't run D-Link routers. Well,
They don't
the
care
folks that
about D-Link yet.
yeah. But the
Until it's
reality
a
is
botnet.
yeah, exactly. So your humans that work remotely, because that's a thing, probably are
Yes.
running some D-Link, and that means there's bad things
Yes.
happening on their routers. And these things become botnet members that do DDoS and other bad things to the internet. So that's why we track them. That's why you should care about the activity on them, and you should be raising awareness with your contractor, employee, whatever human base that you use to make sure they're patching those things as well. You can't force them to patch them, but you can at least raise awareness that these things are happening and that they should probably throw away the
I
link
mean,
and
there's
go
one
get
way to
something
get your
else.
credentials right there. Number 4 is the credentials retrieval, right? So
Yeah.
Handy.
Yeah. And since Glenn mentioned D-Link, I decided, hey, I wonder what's up with Netgear. So we're seeing the same thing. There's about like 9-ish or 8-ish Netgears that we're seeing regularly. The command execution
injection
one,
for the win.
yeah, but like we're seeing regular activity again for the Netgears. And then Glenn also
Mm.
mentioned the DVRs, and one reason why DVRs are on our radar, and I had a conversation with a reporter last week about this too. We're seeing this associated, and we did put this in the report. The nation state level attacks that are going on in kinetic space and actual like shooting missiles and guns at people. There's also a digital aspect of that, and they're trying to get access to all of the video and all of the audio they can within the region that is having a conflict, so they can do things like aim missiles. We talked about that with Ukraine the other week, or so they can eavesdrop, or so they just have views of what's happening, so they have more intelligence than they did before. So the DVRs matter more than they used to. I mean, that's people were
Yes.
using it for that before, but it's worse now for those. I don't maybe in the US we don't
Or
have to worry about it
yeah,
as
it doesn't
much,
even
but
have to be like
yeah.
an existing, situation, but like if a group is planning, something in downtown major city, what better way to know what's what?
Yep, it's not great. And I believe I also just to pick on Sonic Wall, just to do it. Sonic Wall again has some sporadic activity. It's not as regular as some of the other ones. And since VMware has been in the news of late, I decided to poke
Ooh.
at VMware a bit too. VMware's got about a dozen or so things that we see regular activity for, with the Open SLP RCE being something that remote code execution being something that we regularly see again too. VMware is just one of those things, folks.
Yesterday
You
was
got to keep on
VMware's
top of that.
19th edition to the Kev list.
Wow, that's lovely. That's just so lovely. And finally, since Avanti's been in the news of late and seems to always have something wrong with their stuff, the regular activity there as well too.
Yeah.
Maybe find something else to manage your remote endpoints. I don't know. It just seems
And based
not
on
a
their
good thing to keep.
responses, I'm not optimistic about their future. But
Yeah, and you can read through the rest of the heat maps on there. There's one for Atlassian as well too. So I figured that just would be something that folks will want to see. Kev did something, I believe, outside the window I was promised they would do things in, and like there's one this morning before my scripts run. So it's been 0 days since the last Kev release. There's some Apple stuff today. Thanks, Todd. So add Apple to this list of like 6 or 7, 1, 2, 3, 6, 6 other CVEs from Laravel to NetScaler to Avanti to VMware. It's just been it's been Kev Nacious out there for this kind of stuff.
I just
It's
love
not.
seeing Apple
Yeah.
TV OS on Kev. That just cracks me up.
But Apple TVs are in organizations, like they do that.
Yeah,
There's
they're
a
in
thing
every
that sits
Zoom
in
room,
an
or not really every
yeah.
Zoom room, but yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. It's just weird. It's like seeing a refrigerator. Like,
So I'm gonna see if I can figure out that's the best way to go for that layout. There we go. Our
now what is
overlord
Bob
gets
about to do to me?
our overlord. No, our overlord gets. I screwed up the layout. Our overlord got the layout right. So that brings us to the end of our festivities today. I appreciate the interaction that we had from a lot of the folks out there. It's great when y'all chime in because we learn a lot more stuff when folks are providing more information, especially about like the CAD systems. Like I did not realize that they were that proprietary. So that's a little bit
Yeah,
of
if you want to
scary.
come on and talk about it and tell us the
Yeah,
how that
seriously.
works and what that system's like. I mean, there's a lot of people that would love to know, and maybe like some learnings to have for folks that have to quasi manage that in some way, maybe through a third-party vendor.
So as we close this out, I'm going to start with Kimber. Kimber, what quiz, since we're still at the beginning of 2024, people can still say we're going to do something new. It's a brand new landscape out there. What cuisine should people experiment, try if they aren't already trying already for 2024?
Try.
Ooh. I think I'm gonna take the vegan cuisine route.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think that it's just gonna be interesting, like not necessarily taking the foray into meat alternatives, but
Yeah,
like more into like full vegan dishes that do very interesting things with like acidity and sweetness and
love
vegetables
it.
and all that.
Yeah, have some fun out there, folks. Glenn, what about you?
I'm just gonna go with
Oh,
my
eat more tacos. Oh my gosh, you and
answer to
Morris are gonna kill
everything.
me. You and Morris are gonna kill me with the tacos.
It's my answer to
Um,
everything. You can have vegan tacos. You can have fish tacos. You can have any taco.
I
Just
I'm going to suggest Indonesian food, folks. If you haven't actually delved into Indonesian food before, you can also layer that up with what Kimber was saying with the vegan, because you can do vegan Indonesian and you can do vegan tacos. So I think you can now experiment with all three of ours if you kind of take that route.
Yeah.
So that's
hey,
great. Well,
yeah.
I appreciate you two taking time out today. Emily, if you're watching or listening later on, we really missed you. Looking forward to having you back next week. And I just want to thank everyone for interactions, and we'll catch you all in the next Stormwatch. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.